Hi there, and welcome to a new episode of Extreme Banding, the slow YouTube camera channel dealing with various photographic nightmares. I am living in one of them right now, December in the north of Sweden. Weather is so-so, and the sun never rises. There's no time or place for photography, so what can you do? Think about which all-mechanical rangefinder camera with a cost below 1,000 euros you would like to use for the rest of your life, perhaps.
The Italians also produced rangefinder cameras in the late 40s and 50s. There were several manufacturers, and all Italian camera models were produced in pretty small numbers. As such, they are all rare and collectible cameras, which makes them very expensive. As much as I would have liked to have tried a Gamma 3, for example, the cost of a working copy would have been far too much. I did read up on them though, and there was especially one model I found interesting. Just looking at it made me think it could actually be the ultimate rangefinder camera. The very few I had seen had been much too expensive, but one day it was there. A good deal on a Kristall-53, the very camera you now see in front of you. The Kristall cameras were produced in the early 50s by Domenico Chinaglia, Leica copies with M39 standard screw mount. The Kristall-53, which I found most promising, was made in 1953, thereby the name, in somewhere around 400 copies. It has kept many features of the Barnack with a few substantial upgrades. Still, a knob wind with the same placement of the shutter button. Very nice to wind. And still a rewind knob, although a little bit bigger. It is still a bottom loader, and it has a very nice mechanism for removing the bottom. And you know, it's just nicely made overall. Still has a rotating speed dial, but it has a top speed of 1,000 of a second, which is quite nice for an early 50s camera. As you can see, the slow speed dial is not in this place. It has moved up here. A much better placement than on the Barnack Leica 3s and the Japanese copies, for example. Placing the slow speed dial here means that your hand is very much on its own when gripping the camera, and still you have slow speeds. So you set it to 1/20th of a second, then you can choose here 120 or 1/8, for example, 1/4 of a second. So the slow speeds are maybe a bit slow, but still they are working. I haven't seen this placement in many other cameras, so really clever there. The camera also has strap lugs, and they are pretty unobtrusive. That is one upgrade. The next most obvious upgrade is the Viewfinder rangefinder. They are still separated, which is in a way an advantage, since high magnification is better for focusing accuracy, while low magnification can be better for composing, at least with wider lenses. And as for me, I think rangefinder photography, the advantage of rangefinder photography is really with wide lenses, and the advantage of the optical viewfinder is that it's easier to compose when you don't have a short depth of field as when seeing through the lens, and you get hypnotized by the bokeh. Anyhow, the Viewfinder rangefinder of the Kristall-53.
So here's the rangefinder of the Kristall-53. It's a standard 1.5 times magnified rangefinder with a 45mm long base, which makes the effective base length 65.5mm, which is class leading. And here's the unique selling point of this camera, the built-in variable viewfinder. So here we have the 50mm view. It is 0.55 times magnified, as in the original Barnack Leicas. So this is the 50, and here we have 35. Here's 28. And while this looks okay here, sadly the eyepiece is so incredibly small, so you really have to push your eye as close to it as possible to be able to have a comfortable view. So for this camera you either have to have very protruding eyes or no nose, preferably both in combination, to be able to use the 28mm view perfectly. But this is 28, 35 and 50. We also have 75, 90 and 105, all built in to the same viewfinder. Very, very clever. Although you still have this problem with using the same magnification for all views. The optimum would have been a rotating viewfinder system with variable magnifications, such as in the Canon cameras, but only for the viewfinder, and still keep the rangefinder separately. So I would say the Kristall-53, it comes close, but they should have made a Kristall-55 maybe to perfect this system. As you can see here, the view in itself is very small. It's only a part of the small round window.
As you can see, there are marked stops here for 28, 35, 50, 75, 90 and 105 millimeters, but you can really put it anywhere you like in this range. And as the viewfinder is so squinty, I can't see 28 or 35 in a good way, I think, but 40 millimeter is as wide as I can go while still seeing the frame in a comfortable way. As the original Barnack only has 50mm, this could actually make the Kristall an intriguing option with a 40mm lens, still being able to use the built-in viewfinder. You know, you have the new Voigtlander 40mm pancake, for example, if you want a modern and sharp lens. So, compared to a Barnack, the Kristall is a bit bigger, while still staying pretty small. The dimensions are 134 times 76 times 31 for the grip, and the weight is 470 grams. The Kristall is very nice in hand and has a great build quality, but one thing that disappointed me a little was that although it is a bottom loader, the thickness is about 31 or 31.5 millimeters, differing from the standard, 29 to 30 of the Barnacks and other bottom loaders. And this might sound like nothing, but in my opinion, this is basically the only reason for choosing a bottom loader. Something I think is worth it, because that 1 millimeter makes the cameras nicer to grip. And, this combined with the lighter weight of the Barnack makes it nicer in hand. You have this external finder which makes it taller, but it is still lighter than the Kristall, and, makes it a bit more difficult to put in your pocket and in bags. So an integrated design is of course better, but for me the main thing for a nice photographic experience is a good view, and external finders are difficult to beat in that department. But still, the Kristall-53 is very, very nice in hand, super build quality, and it has a very nice shutter sound. So here we will compare it to the Leica 2 and a Fed 1 on 1/100th of a second. Kristall-53, Fed 1, Leica 2. It's really smooth to wind, this one. Not as smooth as this Fed 1 though. To conclude, the Kristall-53 is a camera with a very nice build quality that is great in hand and has a built-in viewfinder for 28 to 105mm lenses, as well as best-in-class effective base length. It is a very rare and therefore expensive camera, and unfortunately it is let down by its thickness and the super squinty viewfinder. Still, I must say, it is a beautiful camera. It is quite addictive to look at and to hold. A testament to the design genius of Domenico Chinaglia, something other camera makers could have followed. Especially this thing with separated viewfinder rangefinder with variable view. But the combined viewfinder rangefinder design prevailed, even at the Chinaglia factory, with their following model, the Kristall R of 1954, which would also prove to be their last. A very interesting and nice rangefinder camera from Italy. It could have been the ultimate rangefinder, but still it does not beat a Barnack.